It's been a while, but we're nearing the end.
I can see what's in your hand. Skullduggery, skullduggery, feeling just the pain. Killer smile, now I understand. Skullduggery, skullduggery, shattered hopes and dreams all fall down. Yeah!
Hail players, and welcome to this recap of Mirror Mirror Reflections, session number 11 I believe. Now we had to sadly go into a 2-week break, stuff happens, but now we're back and we actually covered a lot of ground in this last session. See, where we left off, there was this gigantic clockwork undead monstrosity with coils on its joints, with thunder and lightning falling on it. Well, lightning, not thunder. So that's where we started the session off. They rode about a day to meet it halfway. And then when they started to fight it, the creature didn't really mind them at all. Like, it just kept on walking. Because they had to climb on it. But, you know, they're doing the Titanic creature rules that I developed. Fun encounter. The Proja was very smart because she started summoning creatures on the coils and not attacking the creature itself, which meant the creature didn't really pay any attention to her. It paid attention to her summons, and I believe about three earth elementals died during that encounter. Crazy stuff. So they're climbing. Sestana takes one leg. Jack takes James Stormcrow, takes the other leg. Projas flies behind it. She starts summoning the earth elementals. They start punching one of the coils in one of the elbows. It attacks the elbow, deals a lot of damage to the earth elemental. And after a while, the other two players they reach Sestana reaches one of the elbows and destroys one of the elbows. Then she goes up to a shoulder, and with the earth elemental, between her and the earth elemental, she destroys the other shoulder, rendering their arm completely useless. Jack, during all of this, he's just going around the creature trying to find a way inside of the creature, because he heard that the control panel for the creature was inside, that something was piloting it. And she was right. One of the NPCs told him that, so, you know. Then between Sestana and Proja, they destroyed the other arm. When that happened, the other arm completely fell off. It wasn't even rendered useless, but both arms fell, taking the metal plating in the middle of the creature, taking it away, exposing the core, the electric core, with a skeleton piloting it, and with apparently what it looked like a clockwork heart, like a heart made out of clockwork, attached to it. So apparently that was the thing that was controlling it, because Rovias had told them that, you know, they needed to get that back for him, and so he would help them in the fight against the Black Warlock. Sestana fell. She took a lot of falling damage, but she was okay. Jack fell as well, took a bit of falling damage, but he was fine. And that was the end of that fight. Really fun fight. I enjoyed the fact that most of the damage was dealt to the summoned elementals, because they were the tanks. You know, like the MVPs of that fight were Proja's earth elementals, because they really shone through and through in that fight. After that, they decided to camp out in that same area. A couple of weeks ago, I started out a flaming skeleton horde. I wasn't able to use it because I forgot the book they were in. in the house. So I decided to use it that session. So during the night, while they were sleeping, they got ambushed by a single flame skeleton. Jack killed it, and he woke them all up, and he's like, wake up everybody, we're probably gonna get attacked by more. And they were like, no, it was just one, whatever, let's go back to sleep. And then they popped up, 140 flaming skeletons, and that's what they had to fight, and that was a really fun encounter. Proya and Sestana really shone through. Well, Proya more so. Sestana used a lot of lightning bolts, but Sestana used a lot of lightning bolts, but Proya really shined through because she first summoned the water elemental that didn't do much, and then she started casting Cone of Cold, which deals 1.5 damage to a horde because it's an AoE attack, and then dealt another 1.5 damage because they're vulnerable to cold damage. So it was ×2. With that said, even though the encounter didn't last that long, they dealt a lot of damage to the players. But since I didn't really plan on them doing anything else during the rest of the day, like, that was fine. James Stormcrow actually said, you know what, at first I didn't believe the stories that this place was riddled with undead creatures, and now I believe them, and I want to get out of here. So after that, they make the 2-week trek out of the Ashlands. They go through the forest. Something interesting happened in the forest because somebody took Sir Stormcrow's horse, and then he was like, no, that's my horse, and he just knocked him out and like bound him up and put him on the back of I forget the name of his horse. Wow, and we have so much fun with that horse. I forgot the name of the horse. Oh well. So he put the guy there, and like then I thought, like, I remember I wanted to put an NPC there, but I forgot what it was, so I just like made him cannon fodder because Jack needed to give souls to the gatekeeper of the Ashlands. Originally, my plan was to make that guy Jack's squire because he's a knight and a knight needs a squire. But I'll give him a squire eventually, sometime before the campaign ends. Oh well. Valencio, that's the name of the horse, Valencio. He put the guy on Valencio. They went back to the outpost. In the outpost, they noticed something was amiss, something was weird, because they noticed there were a lot of taskmasters. Taskmasters are part of Task Force Egarion, which are the police that work in Twilight Hold, which is the biggest and strongest and best maximum security prison in all of the campaign setting. But they're completely down south, you know, like they're basically polar opposite to where they live. So they start asking around what's happening. They say apparently they're looking for something. Jack wanted to go to the forest to see if he could find another hunter to kill, so he could take it back to the gatekeeper. So he went off to buy a bow and arrow. Cause like I don't care. At the beginning of the campaign, he had problems remembering to buy a bow and arrow. But after a while, we just started to make it an in-joke that he always keeps forgetting to buy a bow and arrow. But now he always remembers. But now I'm rolling a percentage chance to see if he finds bow and arrows, because usually those shops are completely out of stock. I think it's funny, and I'm gonna write this till the end. But so he goes to the shop to ask for a bow and arrow. There's a taskmaster there asking him questions. What are you doing? What do you want, bow and arrow? Where are you headed? And he says, well, I was doing a job for Iactus. And the taskmaster asks him, so you work for Iactus? And he says, yes. Do you know him personally? And he says, yes, I do. So they take the taskmaster asks, what exactly were you doing in the Ashlands? And Jack says, well, that's personal. I can't really explain that. And the Taskmaster reveals a letter signed by the king that these Taskmasters are completely allowed to research by any means necessary some information they need to find out. James Stormcrow, I keep saying Jack, but you know what, James Stormcrow, because he changed his name when he got a level in Cavalier. So James Stormcrow says, you know what, no, okay, this looks very official. I'll talk to you, but in private. I don't want people to hear us in. So he says, okay, they take him to a guard post, give him really fine wine, really good food to make him comfortable. Then the captain and the leader of the task force, Zagarian, arrives. And I told him, well, he rolls knowledge nobility to see if he recognizes him. And I says, yes, that's Ichabod Crona, the Lord Captain and leader of the task force Zagarian, and basically the boss of Twilight Hold. Also natural from Gaatha. Not only that, his hometown used to be Messinglam. So they have something in common. They start talking, you know, they talk about Messinglam. Ichabod tells him that he heard the news, that it was horrible. Then James tells him that, you know, there are ghosts there now, and like that place is cursed. And Ichabod, you know, sees this as weird because nobody had told him before. And they start talking, and eventually his companions come up. He asks one of the guards to go fetch the drow and the kelp. When they opened the door, they were standing there because the players actually saw James being taken to the guard post, and they're like, what did he do now? Because this guy's always getting in trouble. So they were there. They brought them in. They told them everything that was happening. And Ichabod asks them, why are you doing this for Rovias? You know, getting the clockwork heart. And, well, they tell them about the blackmail and all that stuff that Rovias apparently doesn't seem to mind. That Iactus doesn't seem to mind. And then he reveals that the reason he's there is because they're investigating Iactus and Rovias, because apparently they got a letter that they were doing some pretty sneaky stuff. You know, down under the table stuff, type deals. And Jack, you know, like realizes, oh, well, that's the letter I sent you guys. And not Rovias, like Ichabod tells them, well, you guys are gonna be my witnesses because we're taking this to trial. So they grab them, they take them to Endemont. In Endemont they have the trial. They haven't found Rovias yet, but like Iactus is saying, no, I'm innocent, you can't prove anything. These guys are obviously lying. I'm the Archduke of Gaatha. These guys are just lowly, you know, guards. That's all they are, you know, they do my bidding. Apparently they want something more. Apparently when James Stormcrow got knighted, it went to his head, and now he wants my position. So they keep talking. Eventually Rovias shows up because Melek found them, and Melek went in with Rovias, and Rovias said, well, I'll reveal everything, but I want a reduced sentence. And they said okay, because Ichabod took the clockwork heart and they stored it away from him. And they agreed to give him a smaller sentence. Then Rovias explained everything, that everything was true, that Iactus was okay with the idea that he was bringing more money, and he was a warmonger, and that he was causing war just so Iactus could get more money into his coffers, and Rovias could get more money into his coffers as well. Iactus was livid after that happened, called him a traitor, that he was gonna have his head, and Iactus was sentenced to life in Twilight Hold, and Rovias was sentenced to 50 years in Twilight Hold. Then the player said, you know, this guy has clones, clockwork clones. How do we know this isn't one of them? And they said, you know, you're right, let's check it out. Melek, 50 lashes, and he lashes him 50 times. And then the judge says, take a knife, cut him a bit in the chest, and try to open the skin in his chest. And he did just that, and he said, no, this is just bone. Then they knew that was Rovias. Proya's character and player, they took a lot of joy in me describing that. It's weird, but I can understand it. Then everything was settled. After that, Ichabod told him, now I need to go to Messingland because I want to see what's happening, and you guys are going with me because from what I've heard, these ghosts are attacking anybody that is not from Messingland. So you guys, since you guys spent so much time in Messingland, you guys are going with me. James says, you know, give me a minute. Give me a couple of days. I need to do something. So he breaks up from the group, goes back to the what was it called, the outpost, and he didn't get a bow and arrow either, but he went just into the forest and found some hunters, killed them, and fed them to the gatekeeper. So yeah, he just murdered people in cold blood. It happens. It'll come back to bite him eventually, maybe, if I remember. And the funny thing is, I told him. Well, he says, "Well, I tied them up and I put them on the horse, and I said, okay, you put them on top of the kelp that you had placed there before." And he's like, "Well, what do you mean? What is he doing there?" And I'm like, "You never mentioned that you removed them or that you set him free." And he says, "No, but I thought that the guards would tell me to release them." And I'm like, no. You are a minor noble. You have your reasons to have that guy hogtied. They're not gonna question you. It's not their job. They have bigger fish to fry, so they don't really care. And he's like, "Oh, so that guy's been there." Yeah, he died of hunger. Now here's the thing: we're not playing with alignments, but if we were playing with alignments, Stormcrow would definitely be evil, lawful evil, almost crashing neutral evil, but lawful evil because he does have his very strict code that he does follow to a T. So he gave the bodies to the gatekeeper. He consumed them, and he says, "If you ever have anybody for me to consume, I'll be more than happy." And then an idea struck, and he says, "If I bring you a very powerful spellcaster, like a very, very powerful spellcaster, and a ghost that is made of ash, could you contain their souls?" And the gatekeeper was like, "Of course, nothing can escape me unless it comes from the outside. Like, but if they're within me, they cannot escape." And he's like, "I'll keep that in mind." And I'm like, "Yes, that's what I wanted you to come to. That's the idea I wanted you to come to. That's something I would like to see happen at the end of the game." So they arrive to Messingland. They see it like it's been completely built up, but it has walls around it. Ichabod goes into Messingland with Proya, Sestana, and James Stormcrow. They meet Drummond, and Drummond tells them that yeah, they're ghosts, but they can't control themselves when somebody else from the outside comes in, and they can travel a little bit outside of the town, but not too much, and that's why they build up the walls. And he says there's an entity in the basement of my manor. In there you will find your answers because we cannot go near it. It apparently has some sort of weird protection against ethereal things. So they go down there. This big obsidian door with a lot of strange symbols on it. And they open it and they notice there are wisps and like arcane energies swirling around the room, visible, that are visible. And in the center they see the shard corpse of a human sitting, you know, with its legs crossed and like holding his hands like that, and it starts talking telepathically, and it explains. Forget the name; it's written down. It explains, I came from a different world than yours, a world without magic. Something happened that I ended up here, and it gave me certain abilities, and I can give life to those that didn't have. And these spirits that are here, I was able to come to their aid to give them sanity because they were vengeful spirits. And at this moment, near this town, there's a mirror gate with an evil entity inside that's trying to usurp power over them. And he explains, if you destroy this creature, I'll be able to release these souls, and they will not be vengeful once I release them. And they're like, okay. And they're like, okay, so where is it? And he says, I need you all to do something for me first, because I'm going to die soon, and nobody's gonna know I was here. And I don't want to die being completely forgotten. He tells them, I need you to listen to my story and to write it down so other people can hear it. And Sestana takes out her quill and she says, I'll write it down. And at that moment, I took out 3 different characters. Zephyrus, one of my classes, a Trapper Ranger, modified, because I don't really like the Trapper Ranger as it is. And a Chemist, also a class of my creation. And I told them there are 3 characters. One is a Sylph. One is a Sylph. One is Lesidos, which is a race I made up for that campaign setting, which is the different campaign setting. And an RE, which is also another race that I made for another campaign setting. And well, they picked their characters, and I'm like, we're gonna play the flashback. He's gonna tell you guys now. It's land completely enveloped in eternal twilight. There's no sun, only a moon. And the only light comes from a gigantic sword planted in the middle of the continent, that its hilt has a gigantic gem that glows in an eerily blue light. And that's all the light people get. So that's the description. It's another campaign setting for Pathfinder I've been designing, but this one, there's no magic in it. Like, magic does not exist for players, for humanoids, because demons do exist, angels too. Like, good outsiders exist, but they're very rare and very few. And while evil outsiders do exist, they're also rare, but they're more than angels than good outsiders. So usually when people see magic, it's demons doing it, which is obviously evil. Magic is obviously evil because it just, either it's a fantasy and a fairy tale because you've never seen it, or it's evil because the times you've seen it, demons and evil things and monsters have used it. So I told them, you're in a group, in a small party, that you're going down to some ruins where a demon lives that's been terrorizing the countryside. The village is near that area. So they go in, the Trapper Ranger is looking for traps all the while, most of the time. They do fall into a couple of traps. The player that plays Stormcrow picked up the Anari, which is a humanoid race infused with chaos. Like, they're chaos humanoids. Not that they're chaotic and crazy, but you know, they tend to be a little bit weirder in that aspect. They tend to be more impulsive. He fell into a couple of traps because of those impulses, but he had really cool ideas to how to disable the hardest trap there was before the boss fight. Cause he's like, they found some statues that were breathing fire. They deactivated them, and he says, "Can I remove the statues now?" And I'm like, "They're gonna be very heavy." And he says, "But if we all of us do it, we can." And I'm like, "Yeah, all right. Let's grab it. Let's just ram it to the door." And I'm like, all right. And they rolled really well in their strength check. They did so, and I described the demon, and he says, "Screw it, throw it at him." And they actually did a little bit of damage to the demon they were gonna fight. The demon they were gonna fight is a Nordergra demon. It's a demon I made a couple of weeks ago, and I was really happy with how it turned out. It has a lot of natural attacks, but how it attacks is it can use Dimension Door at will, and it has Dimensional Dervish. So it disappears, appears all around the battlefield, attacking everybody, and then goes back to another square. Because I really like that feat tree, but it's very difficult to use for, like, it's very difficult to be competitive in the game with that feat tree, especially because you get it very, very late. But this is a monster, so rules are bent. They were level 13. 3 of them were level 13, and the Nordagra is CR 15. So this is a tough encounter, and it was, because a couple of them almost died, but they were able to deal enough damage to defeat it. And I was surprised because my idea was they're playing a flashback that this guy had, so if they die, they die. Like, it doesn't matter. The other guy, the shard man in Gatha that was in that flashback with them, he was also there, but he was being controlled by me. However, all he was doing was healing them a little bit during combat. He was a philosopher, another class that I've been developing. Don't know when I'm gonna fully release it yet. But basically, it's an alchemist with 9 level spells. 9th level formula, to be precise. So they defeated it. There was a huge explosion of fire after they defeated the Nordagra. And then, he says, that's all I remember. After that explosion, I was here in this land of ice and magic, where magic is not evil, where even I possess some magical abilities. And he said, I'll tell you now where the portal is. So that's where we ended the session. Very long session, actually. We played from, I think it was 8 till 1:30 a.m. So it was a long one, because I told them, we haven't played in 2 weeks, so let's make up for lost time. With that said, however, probably next session is gonna be the final session in Mirror Mirror Reflections. So it's been a crazy ride. If I could, after this campaign, I would love to run a campaign in that setting, like no magic at all setting. Which, trust me, you might be thinking, no magic, how can you compare to other creatures? You can, though there's gonna be a little bit more control with the adventuring day, because there is healing, but healing is through potions. But there are other things you can do in combat to compensate, because there is drinking defensively in that campaign setting because of the rules. They need to be modified a little bit to make the whole no magic at all thing work. And I've playtested this many times and it does work, so I'm excited. Hopefully the players will be up for it. If not, I don't mind playing anything else or running anything else. Like, if one of them wants to run something, I'd be happy as well. Being a player, it's always fun to game. Anyways, this was ARMR, telling you this recap of Mirror Mirror Reflections. Hopefully you're enjoying this as much as I am. Wish you were there. But until next time, remember, rule number 1, always have fun and keep it interesting. Because the players told me they really enjoyed playing the, what's it called? The flashback instead of just hearing it.